Right, well, welcome to Virtual Sky Notes for December 2020, in quite an exciting month ahead of us, actually, in one respect. So this is a whole sky view of night sky in December, mid-month at about 8 p.m. And you can see that we have Orion rising in the east now, quite early in the evening. It's a signpost constellation, easily recognizable. You can find your way around the sky by following the stars here in the belt, up to Taurus here, the V-shaped Hyades cluster, and down towards the horizon where Sirius is about to rise later in the evening. In the west, by 8 p.m., we're starting to lose some of these summer constellations. This is a summer triangle with Vega, Deneb, and Altair. So those constellations of Cygnus, Lyra, and Aquila are now heading into the evening twilight as we go through December. In the north, the Plough asterism here is starting to come round a little bit more, and we're starting to see Cassiopeia high overhead here, heading westward by early evening. We have the constellation of Perseus here, Andromeda. Square of Pegasus is another constellation, signpost constellation, where you can find your way around the sky. The southern constellation of Pisces Australis is really disappearing, and the navigation star Fomalhaut is really low down now in the southwest. So let's move on to a bit more detail. In the south, we have Mars, very bright still. It's past opposition. It's shrinking in apparent size throughout the month, so do have a look at it early in the month if you can, telescopically. Orion is rising, as I said here. If you follow the three belt stars up to the star Aldebaran here, that's an orange-coloured star, supergiant star. It's a foreground star a bit in front of the Hyades star clusters here, which is the closest star cluster to Earth at 150 light years away, rather. You'll see these stars here, which are a group of stars called the Seven Sisters, which are the Pleiades, M45, easily spotted. Most people can see 7, but some people can see up to 13 with naked eye. Okay, moving on, looking into the west, early evening at 5:30. We have some summer constellation setting, but the real important thing to look at here is Jupiter and Saturn, very low down in the southwest. And this is part of coming up for the Great Conjunction, which will happen on the 21st of December, when the separation between these two will be only 0.1 of a degree. So do look into the west after sunset, about 40 minutes after sunset. Find these two, have a look at them close up over the next 2 or 3 weeks in early December. Looking around to the north, we see the Plough, which is starting to come up a little bit more. It was parallel to the horizon last month at this time. So we now start to see this rising early evening here. If we find Cassiopeia here opposite the Plough, that's a good signpost constellation to find things like double cluster, which is this way over here, and Andromeda, which is the other way. If you point at these two stars the other way, you'll find Andromeda. We'll see that in a minute. Into the east, this is where things are getting really interesting. We now have the constellation of Orion, which is an easy signpost constellation to find. You can obviously see very prominent, actually, even from the town. You won't see some of these fainter stars; they're quite faint in the town. But if you're outside the town, then you get a better view of some of these stars anyway. The Hyades cluster you can see with binoculars quite nicely. And we have M35 here as well, which is a nice little cluster in Gemini. The 3 stars of Betelgeuse, Sirius, which is just rising here at 8 o'clock, and Procyon form the winter triangle. We have also in the east we have Uranus, which is visible to binocular people using binoculars, and you can find that quite easily by following the notes in newsletter 253 here. Obviously, new moon's on the 14th. First quarter is 22nd. Full moon's on the 30th. And last quarter is on the 8th of December. And if you want to look at the moon illusion effect, look around about the time of full moon. If we look at the constellations of Gemini, Orion, and Taurus, we see there's quite a bit more of deep sky objects to actually look at. We have some messier objects here, M42, M43. This is the Orion Nebula complex. We have the Horsehead Nebula here, which is very difficult to spot actually. It's very close to this bright star here, but it's M78. And if we look into Taurus, we have some nice clusters here as well, which have NGC numbers against them. So if you've got binoculars, you can pick some of these things out. Obviously M45 is the Pleiades up here. We also have, by late evening, we have the Beehive cluster in Cancer the Crab here, M44. That's a very nice cluster to look at. It's visible as a misty patch naked eye. There are 2 meteor showers in the month. The first one is the Geminids on the evening or morning of the 12th, 13th. And this is quite a bold production is quite well on meteors in this meteor shower with over 100 per hour as a zenith hourly rate. And of course, what that means is you can see 1 or 2, and then maybe you get a burst of 2 or 3 or 4. So do have a look at those on those evenings. And indeed, either side of those evenings, if you can observe them, either side of those dates, that's even better. They appear to radiate from just above the star here, which is Castor in Gemini, and they appear to radiate due to an effect which is they appear to radiate from that point in the sky due to perspective. So you can see a Gemini streaking across the sky over here, provided it points back to this radiant is a Geminid. Okay, so that's quite an interesting thing to look at on the 12th and 13th of December. The next meteor shower is the Ursids, which is on the 22nd of December. Usually a very small number of meteors, about 10 per hour. But this year, there was a possibility that there may be 2 or 3 outburst peaks around the time of maxima. And this is in the early hours of the 12th, of the 22nd of December. More information on newsletter 268. The Ursids have a radiant just above Cocab in the little bear here, Ursa Minor. So the radiant is well above the horizon. So if we do get an outburst, then it'd be quite spectacular, but it only lasts a few minutes. So do watch out for that if you can, but it will be at 5:30 in the morning, unfortunately. It's one of those type of events. Also this month, as always, we have variable star Algol. This is the so-called demon star in Beta Perseus. This is Beta Perseus. Here you can see it. Here is down the front leg of the of Perseus here, and that has a period of about 2.86 days, in which it dims for about 9.6 hours. And you see on these dates here, on the 11th and the 29th and 30th, are favourable to the UK to observe those. Details will be listed in newsletter 269. So you can watch that with naked eye or through binoculars and see on those dates it'll look about a third as bright as it normally would do. So it's quite a noticeable change in brightness for Algol. Of causing a bit of interest at the moment to southern observers is comet 2020 S3 Erasmus, which is really coming into perihelion on the 12th of December at 0.4 AU from the Sun. It's very poorly placed in our UK skies pre-dawn. It is 8.5 magnitude, and with a brightening sky in twilight, it's going to be a very difficult thing to pick up, I think. And it goes into outburst. So there's a possibility of having a look for that late November, but by the time we get into December, I think it's just going to be too low to see. Comet Atlas heads further north. It's still at about 8th magnitude. It's a fuzzy, I think, fuzzy object, effectively a coma, round fuzzy ball, effectively to look at in telescope. And it will be close to 2 stars, which you can pick up fairly easily. This star actually it's not Beta Aurigui, it's actually Beta Tauri actually on the 4th, and Alpha Aurigui, which is Capella, around about New Year. And you can watch that with a larger telescope, I would suggest. Yeah, okay. So there's an update on newsletter 258A for that one. Asteroid 13, Eugenia, is opposition on the 13th. Nothing too exciting, really. It's about 10th magnitude. But it actually is tracking through the constellation of Auriga. So if you've got a larger telescope or imaging capability, then you can pick it up as a moving object night to night as it moves through the constellation of Auriga. That's on newsletter 267. One of our periodic comets, 156P Russell Linear, is a faint fuzzy at 10th magnitude. It is coming to, has been through perihelion on the 17th. It doesn't get very close to the Sun. It has a 1.33 AU, which is about the orbit of Mars, effectively. Has a period of 6.44 years. It's one of the Jupiter families of comets. So it comes around every 6.4 years, effectively, and is tracking northwards here through constellation of Pisces of Fish. So you can pick that up. Again, there's a newsletter 270 for that one. So planets this month, obviously we have Mars in the south, very prominent still. Have a look at that before it gets too small in apparent size. You can see this apparent diameter is shrinking now quite rapidly. Starts up at 14.4 arc seconds and gets down to 10.4 by the end of the month. Jupiter, we're going to be losing very, at the end of the month into New Year. It's going to be setting earlier. So I'd say if you're looking at the grand conjunction on the 21st, or days either side of that, actually, you'll see Jupiter and Saturn in the same field of view. Neptune is quite well placed in Aquarius, and Uranus is very well placed actually now in Aries. So now's the time to have a look at Uranus if you haven't seen it before. And these are just as a guide to how to find those two. Of Uranus and Neptune. You can find Neptune by looking at the, this is a square of Pegasus up here, this is circle it, drop down. This is the end of Aquarius, and you'll see it's really close to the star Phi Aquarii, and it's in the middle of this triangle of stars here. See that? Uranus is a bit more difficult to find. It's 2.5 binocular fields below the stars of Aries. But although there's lots of stars in this field of view, Uranus is by far the brightest thing in the field of view at 5.7 magnitude. So this is the real object to go for this month. If you haven't do nothing else, have a look at the grand conjunction. You can spot it with the unaided eye. Watch these two planets get closer together, and it's going to be really obvious between around the 12th of December and the 25th of December. Observe about 45 minutes after sunset, so it's into twilight, and you'll pick up Saturn. Jupiter is much brighter, of course, so it's very easily spotted. But this grand conjunction really is something unusual. The two get to within 0.1 degree at 6 arc minutes on the 21st, and this is the closest they've been since 1623, 400 years. So now is a good time to spot that one in the evening sky, 45 minutes after sunset. Newsletter 265 will tell you how to do that. So looking at the month ahead, looking through the calendar, we have Comet Atlas close to Beta Tauri, as it is, on the 3rd. The moon is close to the Beehive cluster in the east on the 4th. Lunar observers can have a look at Mare Vaporum on the 6th. Last quarter is visible on the December the 8th. It's visible in daytime skies, actually. If you have a chance to look at it, it's really, I've mentioned that it should be December, sorry. That should be December the 9th, the clear obscure feature, the eyes of Clavius. It's one of these shadow effects where you see on Clavius, the crater Clavius. The 10th of December, we have a Zoom meeting, which is partly a quiz, partly look at the night sky and space events for 2021. The 13th, 12th to 13th, is the peak of the Gemini's meteor shower. We've mentioned that already. 13th is also the opposition date for asteroid 13. New moon is on the 14th. There's also a total solar eclipse visible from South America on the 14th of December. On the 15th, there's a thin waxing crescent moon, 1.35%, visible in evening twilight, just 40 minutes after sunset. Mars is still worth having a look at, and one of the darker features, Syrtis Major, is visible early evening on the 15th of December. There's an 11% waxing crescent moon close to Jupiter and Saturn, which, and the planets by that time are only half a degree apart, actually, on the 17th. So that's a good spot, really, in early evening sky. The 21st really is the grand finale for the month, as it were. This is something to really aim for, to have a look at that if you can. The 21st is also the winter solstice, and we also have first quarter on the 22nd. We've mentioned that on the 22nd is also the peak of the Ursid meteor shower. It is in the early hours of the morning, or about between 5 and 6:10 in the morning, and there is a possible predicted outburst, or 3 very distinct outbursts timed over that period, and they could be in as much as 490 per hour. That's an hourly rate. So you imagine if you get that in 10 minutes, you get about 49 per in that 10-minute slot. So it could be an outburst. More details on newsletter 268. Another clear obscure feature, the jeweled handle, is visible on the 24th. 27th, we have a gibbous moon next to Aldebaran and the Hyades cluster. 29th is Algol, which is Beta Persei at the minimum, early hours of the morning. 30th is full moon, so have a look at the moon illusion effect at 1603 is a moonrise. December the 30th, we have Comet Atlas quite close to Capella, but because it's full moon, it'll be quite unfavorable. I think it'd be washed out. I think it'd be very difficult to spot that one. December the 31st, Algol is another minimum, but more reasonably timed at 22:10 UT. As always, the warning is there to look, wait until the sun set before you look at some of these crescent moon and other features in the western sky after sunset. Looking forward to early 2021, we have a Zoom meeting, which is going to be a social event, virtual party effectively, on the 15th of January, and a regular meeting on Zoom again due to COVID on January the 28th. So that's a roundup of the months ahead in night sky. Do have a look at some of these things, and we'll do it again next month.